All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to WagerTalk Betting 101 with Minty Bets and Teddy Covers. Last week we did half sports betting news, half Q&A. We're going to do the exact same thing today. I have some questions from you guys left over from last week's episode that we didn't get to. Some on Instagram, some on Twitter that we've got. So we've got a full show. And Teddy, how are you doing today?
Look, Minty, I'll be perfectly honest with you. We have games scheduled. We have point spreads up and available. We have money lines up and available. I honestly feel better this week than I felt in at least 3 months. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we haven't had light at the end of the tunnel. We got some light at the end of the tunnel now. We got games scheduled for less than 10 days from now. In MLB, 2.5 weeks in the NBA. So the fire is lit underneath my feet. We've been working a lot harder the last week or two, man. It really have. It's made a big difference. When you work harder, you feel better. I do anyway. I felt like crap for so long during this, so I'm doing okay. How about you, Minty? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited that MLB is coming next week, actually. Opening day is the 23rd between the Nats and the Yankees and the Dodgers and Giants, so we're super excited about that. A lot of people still skeptical about sports coming back, and I can see it maybe getting canceled midway, if anything, but it's going to start, So I don't like that negativity on my Twitter timeline, guys. I hate when we post something and someone comments, you just look stupid because all sports are going to be canceled. Well, you're going to look stupid when I'm going to take a picture at the baseball game. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I just do not like that negativity. But anyway, let's get started with some sports betting news. Let's actually get started with this gentleman named Art Schlichter. Teddy, what is the deal with him? I actually haven't heard about him.
So he made an appeal to get out of jail. Schlichter's been in and out of jail since the 1980s. He's a guy who was supposed to be the next big thing at the quarterback position. And he has had a compulsive gambling problem pretty much straight through. He wrote a book about some of his addiction problems. He went back to jail again in 2012 off a ticket scam and was sentenced to, I think it was 11 years in state and 10 years in federal. And now he's served most of it, and he's trying to get out, and his lawyers have put up, his lawyers like, let him free. And at the hearing to release him on probation, the DA gave evidence of him continuing to bet via female accomplices while in prison, having his female partners make bets outside. So, you don't want to laugh at someone with a serious addiction problem, but the Schlichter thing's been going on for 40 years, and it's still going on. And he's made the news, so it's certainly worth talking about. I feel bad for someone that is that compelled, that has suffered that many his life has been ruined because of his addictions, one of which includes gambling. If you have a gambling problem, it is okay to admit, I have a gambling problem. It's okay to get help for that problem before it ruins your life. I was lucky, and I'm lucky in the sense that I'm not wired internally like I can watch a game without betting on it. I can have a day where I don't make bets. During this span, I've had months where I haven't been making bets on a regular basis, and it's not freaking me out. If you have a problem with this type of stuff, please stop watching the show. Get yourself some help, because you're betting more than you can afford to lose. If you're putting yourself in a position where this isn't a fun hobby, this isn't a profitable strategy, this is just compulsive behavior that is hurting you and hurting your loved ones, you got to get help. But on the other hand, when you have Schlichter who's been having this problem for 40 years and is trying to get out of prison, and the DA's like, no, the dude's still betting with these female runners that are his girlfriends, it's one of these stories that just doesn't go away, man.
It's awful. Yeah, gambling addiction is a real thing, guys. So if you have a problem, get help. Definitely a serious issue. Can break up families, can break up relationships, and just your life will spiral out of control if you don't get help with any addiction, really. I want to say hi to Brian, Yura, and Thomas. Thanks for joining us today. So let's get into some more sports betting news. Now, Las Vegas, Hard Rock Las Vegas has shut down February 3rd of, I believe, this year. I was there the last day. It was pretty sad. And Virgin Hotels is taking over. They're expected to open, I think, November 6th, which seems very quick. I haven't been on the Strip, so I don't know if they're currently working on it right now or if COVID has stopped all construction. But it's pretty interesting. The casino portion will be known as the Mohegan Sun Casino, and there are Betfred. Betfred is actually a sports book, or I guess a bookmaker that I've never really heard of, but it's based in the UK. Do you know anything about this, Teddy? What are your feelings? Do you think it'll get bought out later on?
So last week we were talking about the bad news. We're like, we just lost Caesars and we lost CG the month before, and where are the wise guys going to bet and how's it going to work? And as a bettor, all you want is variance, and that's why I'm always saying if you have 2 accounts, get 3. If you have 3 accounts, get 4. If you have 4 accounts, get 5. If you have 5 accounts, get 10. That's why I moved to Las Vegas. It's not my one bookie I get to deal with. I get to go up and down the Strip and take advantage of all these lines. So the more competition is better. Now, it's really interesting. This isn't on the Strip. This is the former Hard Rock. It's on Harmon. It's about a half mile off the Strip to the east side. It's actually, I think, the closest casino to the airport. One of them. If you get off the airport, need to gamble 5 minutes. Hey, quick, get me over to the Hard Rock. We used to park there sometimes instead of parking in the long-term parking at the airport, but I'm going to give that secret away. And that was back in the day anyway. But so that is closed. They're doing whatever renovations to make it a Virgin hotel. And then the casino part, as you mentioned, is going to be called Mohegan Sun. The Mohegan Sun, the group out of Connecticut, is going to be running that. But Betfred is worthy of talking about, because Betfred is not a name that many American bettors are familiar with. However, they're huge in the UK. They're one of the top 4 in the UK. And of course, the UK in Britain, on every street corner is a legal bookmaker. Literally, they're like 7-Elevens, where you see them everywhere around the country. So Betfred is a book that is well-funded, very viable, been around for a while. I do not know, and I've actually made inquiries all week, and other people don't know either, what Betfred does with winning bettors.
Okay.
Does Betfred cut limits? Does Betfred move on their action? And of course, when you talk about that, that's a huge difference. There are books that welcome the wise guy action, and we'll talk about that when it comes to some questions. But in terms of Betfred, I don't know whether they are, we don't want any wise guy action and we'll cut your limits to $20 if you beat us.
Right.
Or we like the wise guy action. We're going to try to take big bets and a lot of big bets and adjust our numbers off the wise guy action and try to get the, win off the vig or win the decisions. I don't know what their bookmaking philosophy is, but the fact is they're a big boy. They're new in town. They're new in the U.S. and they're coming to Vegas. And those 4 signs, in my mind, all good ones after we had lost books a week ago. Yeah. And we're like, oh my God, we're losing, we're losing the Vegas advantage. And one of the advantages of being in Vegas is you get to have all these apps on your phone and you get to, win by a half point instead of losing by a half point. It does make a legitimate difference how many outs we have.
Absolutely.
So good news with the Virgin Hotels, Mohegan Sun Casino, and Betfred running the sportsbook there.
It is good news. A gentleman named Jordan joining us from the UK says the odds they offer over here in the UK sucks. So much juice. Jordan, I hope you're wrong when they come here. And then he said they certainly don't cater to sharps, similar to William Hill. Teddy. I don't know.
I was under that impression, but I didn't want to. I didn't know for a fact, and I didn't want to say it. But that was the impression I got. Nonetheless, with William Hill, William Hill cuts limits when you win. We'll see what Betfred does.
Okay, we shall see. Excited to see. I'm just excited to see actually Virgin Hotels because their photos. It's a curio collection, and I actually really like their hotel chain. So we will see. Next story up and last story up, I guess, is New Jersey suspends betting on Ukrainian tennis after match fixing alert. So I guess on Thursday, the state sportsbook suspended betting on all table tennis events in Ukraine or any matches involving 6 players after being warned of potential match match fixing. There's no evidence that occurred, but due to the nature of the alert, table tennis betting is banned. What do you think of this? Teddy, you're not one of those people who in quarantine, you started betting table tennis and ping pong and random sports, did you?
No, I didn't. And I didn't partially for reasons like this. This is no shock to anybody who's paying attention in the sports betting world. Jersey cut these down. It's not like they were offering all this stuff in Vegas anyway. Colorado shut it down as well. But when you're talking about events where the players are getting this amount and bettors can wage this amount, it can cause problems. We've seen that already in the tennis world. And to see it in the table tennis world is no surprise. That's why, and you say, well, my area of expertise has always been team sports as opposed to individual sports. And when it comes to tennis and golf, I understand there are guys that are really good at it. Auto racing, they're really good at it. But I've always felt it's much harder to fix a team sport than it is an individual sport. And even if you get to somebody, and it's not that we've had these scandals in the U.S. on a consistent basis. We haven't. Certainly not since I've been in Vegas. There's been very few, surprisingly few scandals. But to see the table tennis get taken off the books is no. If you're paying attention, it's no surprise to anyone. And again, we talk about integrity. Our old friend Matt Holt, who works with U.S. Integrity, this was the Sports Wagering Integrity Monitoring Association. The fact that there are people who are paying attention to the betting markets who aren't betting the markets is a good thing, not a bad thing. This stuff's getting uncovered. They're finding the odd patterns, and it's that's a good thing for bettors. One last thing when it comes to Betfred, I had a conversation with a couple of professional bettors in Vegas this week. Going back to our last topic real quick, and he's like, the Betfred, the impression he got was that it wasn't a wise guy friendly shop, and his impression was, maybe this hurts syndicates more than it does individual bettors, and that might be good for individual bettors who aren't trying to get $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000 down on a game. The syndicates might have a harder time than individual bettors. So it's like the environment has the potential to be better for individual bettors and worse for syndicates, which makes for some interesting questions about what the nature of the betting market's going to look like this year. If the syndicates aren't betting the same way, we need to note that.
Yes, very, very good point. Yes, Perez, I will. All right, I want to say hi. We will get to these questions soon. Hello, Scott, Ryan, David from Israel, Elliot, John, Robert, Jordan, Josh. My goodness, so many people. Arthur, Matthew. There's a gentleman named Teddy, too, who has a question. So, Teddy, I will get to that. Thomas, everybody, thanks for joining us today. Tons of questions, so we'll get to them. I'm going to start with last week's question that we didn't get to from David from Israel. Question to Teddy. I use mainly Pinnacle Sports as my main sportsbook. The regulations in Israel are terrible, so no other choice for me. Is Pinnacle enough for line shopping?
I'm sorry, what was the last part of it? Is Pinnacle
enough for line shopping?
No. It is not. Pinnacle is a great book to have. It's not available for U.S. audiences. Not without finagling. But it is a great book to have because Pinnacle takes opinions with their numbers. They're a reduced use shop, and they cater exclusively to wise guys. So when you're looking for that extra half point to bet against whatever the public team is, you're not going to find that at Pinnacle. So when I say, Pinnacle's a great book to have, but it should be one of a pantheon of books. If you have all your eggs in one basket, you're really not going to be able to take advantage of line shopping. I have nothing but good things to say about Pinnacle. Pinnacle's business model of we take all the wise guy action we can get and we'll adjust our lines based on that action is the preferred business model of any sports bettor. I have nothing bad to say about that book, but one book is not enough, especially if it's a book that caters to a specific audience, not even a mainstream book. Penny does cater to the wise guys, so that book alone is not enough to properly manage your sports betting portfolio.
All right. Good question. You like Pinnacle, but it's not enough to line shop. There you go, David. Now, from Raul from last week, what U.S. sportsbooks do you think are best suited to compete with the big two in Fanduel and Draftkings? So what are the two best competitors of Fanduel and Draftkings?
Well, I mean, make no mistake about it. When we talk about the U.S. market, Fanduel and DraftKings, we're not going to call them afterthought. They're not the monsters. They're back east. Vegas is different. Yeah, I mean, back east are the biggest books. Absolutely, not in Vegas. They're not. When we talk about who's going to be competing with these guys, you asked me a year ago, 6 months ago, I said, "Oh, Caesars will be there," and then boom, Caesars just got sold.
Yeah.
So we certainly see all kinds of groups being aggressive about sports betting. Boyd has been very aggressive on sports betting. The Westgate has been aggressive on sports betting. The South Point has been aggressive on sports betting. Circa has been aggressive on sports betting.
Circa has, yeah.
And when we talk about the next wave, but those books in particular, they're not nationwide. They're getting there, but they're not there yet. It's an interesting question, and as I'm kind of talking my way through the answer is I don't know. Because of the merger and acquisition piece of this equation, and that's not anything I'm privy to, and it's not anyone that anyone's really privy to. We would expect more mergers and acquisitions that will change the balance of which sports books are in control. And of course, William Hill's a monster in the U.S. now. I would have to put William Hill as the most likely big competitor to DK or Fanduel or something.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Good questions today, guys. Thank you.
Very good
that's
question.
One from last week, actually. But good question last week.
Yes, I hope you're still joining us, Raul. All right, so a question Faith first had, this was actually a question for yesterday for Yanni, but it applies to you too, Teddy. And this kind of applies to a question we just received on YouTube from Del Toledo. Faith asks, how can you constantly make high dollar wagers without getting limited? And I say this is kind of the same as Del Toledo's is, will you get blocked or limited as a one-dime bettor if you consistently win in Vegas?
There are books that cater to bigger bettors, and there are books that don't want the action. If you beat William Hill repeatedly, they will cut your limits. If you beat Boyd repeatedly, they often cut your limits. Or stations, or there are books that will absolutely cut your limits. The books we just talked about, Circa, South Point, Westgate, they welcome the action. They won't cut your limits. So that is absolutely a book-by-book differential. And you say, well, where am I going to set up my accounts? All of them. And then when you get kicked out, and you deal with it from there. Or where you get your limits lowered, you get your limits lowered. But certainly there are still a good handful of books in Vegas that are very willing. A Win. I haven't talked about Win. They're certainly willing to take a big bet. Without cutting limits. There's a good handful of books in Vegas that are comfortable taking bigger bets that don't cut you off. I haven't seen that in other locations. Jersey's not like that yet. Neither is Pennsylvania. There's not as much competition. So the fact that there's more competition here and more independent or smaller books is a very good thing for bettors here in Vegas. And if you're not here, you're just going to have to, it's not, there are more outs, but you're still going to have to deal with the vagrancies and the variances of dealing with sports books that may or may not welcome your action.
True. Okay. Question from Todd. Could you ask Teddy how Teddy maintains emotional balance so he is not emotionally attaching himself too much to his bets and burning up energy wastefully that could be spent with kids, wife, and work? Thanks. Have a great day.
That's a great question, Todd, and thank you
for
asking. Todd Goodell, or Goodell, I'm not sure, but I appreciate the question. How do I maintain my emotional balance? Let me start with this. I have moments, we all have moments, okay? So even with emotional balance and not getting too high or too low, you're going to have moments. You know, that you're just, oh my God, I cannot believe what I just saw. Where but there are two issues I'm going to say. One is the fact I've been doing this full time for 20 years, and I was doing it part time before that. So the experience factor does come into play. When you've lost 300 bad beats already, the 301st doesn't feel like the second one did. You know, you're like, oh my God, and then you're over it. So experience does make a difference in that case. And that's something that the more you do it, the less this stuff will make you crazy.
You have
the
to
other
condition
thing
yourself
that I see that people that are going crazy on bets, I don't mean to cut you off there, Minty, but I just want to get to this point and follow up. But the other key issue here definitely has to do with bet size.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're betting a portion of your bankroll where this loss is going to hurt you, you're betting too much of your bankroll.
Yeah.
When you have a bigger bankroll and then you're betting small, again, my first year out here, I got a little bankroll. I'm making big bets in comparison to it, and you're sweating every game. 5 years in, it's not so bad. 10 years in, it's better, etc. It gets better. But once you're in a position where any given bet that you're making is legitimately 1% or 2% of your bankroll, it's not going to crush you if you lose.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You're able to withstand you're able to be more emotionally detached from your bets and not have it eat you alive, winning or losing. So, the experience and the bankroll, when you get to a level that you have both, the stress level in any given bet does go down. Now, make no mistake about it. I still go crazy sometimes. I still have moments, but most of the time, win or lose, I'm able to be fairly calm, and I can, focus on my work or my kid or my wife or any of that kind of stuff. And the other thing I would say is that if you're having an issue transitioning from a betting environment to a family environment, do something quick and energetic in between. Go for a bike ride, go play a set of tennis, do something. But burn that energy off before, win or lose. If you're too high, hey, I won everything, I feel great, or it's a nightmare, quit looking at me that way, I'm lucky to have a mostly happy marriage. Which I'm lucky, absolutely. But having something to burn off some of that energy, positive or negative, before getting involved with, all right, now I got to deal with the kids and the wife and all of that, it makes it a little bit easier. I would work out in between.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. From Paul, a question from Paul. This is my first year in Circa Million and second in Super Contest. Do you have any strategy suggestions for multiple contests? I would like to know too, because I entered the Circa Million last season and I did horribly. And my strategy was to, whatever I actually bet on, I would do the opposite for my contest picks for some reason. And it just didn't really work out. I was sad no matter what. So what can you give us advice on these contest strategies?
Because you have to explain. You got to explain. So you're going to make bets and bet one way, but then your contest plays were the exact opposite of those, all of them?
Basically, yeah. Mostly they were opposite because I was scared. I was like, well, if I lose this bet, at least I'll have a chance to win $1 million or whatever. So I don't know. It was stupid. I joined it with someone else and I just it wasn't good. I don't know if I'll join it again just because I don't really have a strategy. And I don't want to lose my bet and then, go down in the rankings in the contest either if I do the same pick. So what do you suggest?
I would not suggest using your strategy.
Okay. Well, let's give you a different one.
I will. Okay. So if you're doing two kinds, it's a great question, Paul. I love your Twitter moniker, Trophy Husband 38. That's great. But when you're talking about multiple contests where you're picking the same games, you don't want to, in my opinion, I don't like to put in identical cards in both places. What I will do, is in any given week, all right, number one is that if there's a line differential, be aware of the line differential between the two contests. You may want to use a game in one contest and not in the other. In an average week, probably have two or, again, in my world, you'll have 2 or 3 strong opinions and then 2 or 3 lesser opinions.
Okay.
The 2 or 3 stronger opinions might make both cards.
Okay.
The 2 or 3 lesser opinions well, I'll put one here, I'll put one there, and have some variance between the two contests.
Okay.
Once you get about a month in, shouldn't say that. Once you get in a position where you have a better position in one contest than the other, that now becomes your primary.
Okay.
And your primary contest is going to get all your best plays every week, and your secondary is going to get the secondary plays.
Makes sense.
But once you have, all right, this is of the two contests, we're in first place here, or we're a game out of first place here, and we're sitting in the middle of the pack there. The one that you're in contention with is the one that you're going to put all your best plays in every week, and the other one's going to be your other. But initially, I would make sure to have some variance between the two. It's much easier for the contests that have NFL and college versus super contests or circa million that are just NFL only. But it's absolutely doable where you just put some variance between the two contests, and that gives you a fighting chance, or I think a better chance of putting the same picks on both.
Okay, good advice. That makes sense. Kind of like if you're in like two fantasy football leagues and one does better than the other, you kind of focus more on the other one.
Of course.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I like it. All right. Question from Twitter that kind of irked me, like I talked about earlier. What is Teddy going to do for money when all sports are canceled? Well, Teddy, what have you been doing for money, if that's like not too personal of a question, when all sports got canceled? I mean, it's not like you were flat broke. So
no, I mean, that's an advantage of having a bankroll, is that when times like this happen, you have a bankroll that you can rely on. That said, I don't like siphoning money off my bankroll, and that's all I've done for the last 4 months. So you can do it for a relatively short period of time. I can't do it forever. I also won't have a bankroll to bet when things start. Anytime you're taking capital out of your bankroll and putting into living expenses, that in theory reduces further or future earnings. So in this situation, I mean, for the I haven't had income during this span, and so I mean, whatever, it's okay. I'm not, we're not starving. The wife's okay. We're not. There's not significant issues. Another 6 months of this, and there would be for sure. But for now, it's been okay. And it also means that my bankroll is a little bit smaller now than it was 4 months ago, unfortunately. Despite the fact that I have neither been winning or losing wagers, I've had to use that money to pay some of my expenses. Yes.
Alrighty. So sports aren't going to get canceled. So there you go. And I think from Get Lit on Instagram, NBA, I'm thinking of taking Toronto to win the Eastern Conference. If you found a number you liked, would you take a chance on Toronto? I'm thinking that's a no from Teddy.
Oh, that's an absolute yes. I mean, I
really?
don't know there's a more undervalued commodity than the Raptors in the betting markets.
I'm very surprised.
They're the defending champs, okay? Someone's got to beat them. From everything I've read, and again, we're still early in the process, but from everything I've read, that is a focused team and a hungry team and a team that is coming to Orlando to win a title. I would not sell Toronto short. And of course, in the Eastern Conference, where there's some sexy teams that people like, where the Bucks have had this monster run, obviously and where Philadelphia offers some intriguing combinations, and Boston is a popular choice. Miami had a great first half, and Toronto's a little bit overlooked in the betting markets, and I don't know that there's a better, in terms of to win it all, I don't know there's a better bet out there than the Raptors. Certainly not one at a double-digit price.
Okay. I like it. All right. And from Instagram, DMB Magic Fan, do you think it's a good time to take NBA outsider in the playoffs due to all the COVID uncertainty that could shake things up? I think we kind of answered this, but we'll go over it again. Do you think basically a long shot is a good one to take to make the playoffs due to COVID uncertainty, or to win, I guess, in playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I'm not looking at a real long shot. You talk about taking a flyer on a team like Toronto. Yeah, I'll take a flyer on a team like Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I expect one of the two LA teams to make the finals in the West. I really do.
Yeah,
I would be shocked.
Too.
For as much depth as the West have, it's going to be Lakers, Clippers, and one of those two teams is going to get there. In the East, there's again there's an argument to be made that
Mhm.
everything that happened 4 months ago, this is a whole new season, and you may as well forget it. All right, and the Bucks might not be as good, and there's some of these teams that have these great records may not be there. And I can understand that argument. I don't necessarily disagree with that argument strongly, but the teams at the top are still the teams at the top, and I
Agreed.
And I don't look at the second tier, and especially if you're looking for the real long shots, the third tier worth of teams. I just don't think that we're going to see one of those runs. So no,
Okay.
I'm not looking for long shots. I'm
Being
really
realistic.
not.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer. All right. From Teddy Stock, what's a good long-term win rate percentage, Teddy?
If you win 54% of your bets over the long term at minus 110, you're going to make money. If you win 55, you're going to make real money. My goal every year is to beat and again, these are minus 110. This doesn't count if you're betting money lines. You're betting baseball, or you're betting tennis, or you're betting NHL, or whatever, wherever you're dealing with money line issues. But at minus 110, if you hit 55%, you will make money and real money every year if you're betting, especially if you're betting daily.
Right.
60%. 60% is always a goal. I go into the season, I'm going to hit 60% plus. And you have seasons. I've had, across, I believe in just about every sport where I've gotten better than 60% plus. It does happen. It doesn't happen every year. And that's what I goal, but I'm never going to complain about winning 11 out of 20. It's not even, that's a slow and steady grind. I don't complain. Now, every so often you have a monster year and you hit 65% on something. And I've had, certainly I've had years like that. Not a lot. They're few and far between. They're fun when they happen. They're really fun when they happen. But 55% is I'm making money. 54% you're making money. 53% you break even. But 55% is you're making a little bit of money. 60% is you had a real good year. 60% plus, and you had a magical season. So you're not talking about ridiculous percentages. You're not talking about winning 8 out of 10 or even 7 out of 10 bets. Doesn't happen. 6 out of 10 is great. 5.5 out of 10 is good.
Okay. Yeah, everyone needs to understand that. And that's actually kind of what our gentleman in the chat, Arthur, I believe, said to answer your question. So that was perfect. Spot on. Now, from Josh, asks, sports books that are a must-have. Do you have a favorite sports book as well? I would think you would say all the sports books are a must-have to line shop, but do you have a book that you actually really like?
Sure. I mean, right now we have, and I don't want to leave anyone out, but there's a big three in Vegas in terms of South Point, Westgate, Circa. Those are the three best books in Las Vegas right now. All apologies to all my friends that work at the other books, but those are my favorite books in Vegas right now. But that has changed very much over the years. It changed every year. All right, this book opens and that book closes. This book's got a new director and that book's got a new philosophy, and it's always evolving. And a book that you thought was, and of course I'm just talking about the legal U.S. books. When it comes to offshore, it's a whole different story. But it's the best book this year may not be the best book next year. That's the key.
Right.
It does change as the director changes, the management philosophy changes, books change. Not all books, but it's not unusual to see, although the three books I'm talking about, South Point's been there from day one. Westgate's pretty much been there since Jay Kornegay got there.
Right.
And Circa has basically built their position as being the sports book for Vegas. And I don't know if you've been inside there. I mean, it looks pretty freaking cool. I can't wait to be in that book. But all three of those have really made an effort to cater to the wise guy audience in Vegas. So I would anticipate those three books, knock on wood, that they'll be around for a while doing what they do. And not that they would go anywhere, but, when you hear William Hill just bought out Caesars, you're like, well, what you think is going to happen is not always what happens. Those three books right now are as good as any in town. And I feel like I'm leaving one out. And I like the Nugget, too. The Nugget's another. I don't want to leave Tony Miller out in company. I do. You don't like the Nugget?
No, I used to work at the Nugget, so I just have bad memories there. But the Nugget is, I've actually never bet at the Nugget, so I can't actually say if I like them or not. But I'm close with people at the Nugget, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, Tony Miller and Aaron Kessler are both real good guys, and again, they're putting up. They're not locked into a corporate structure in their sports book, which is a bad thing for the syndicate. You're not going to get down 10 dimes there. But it's a good thing for individual bettors. You want to bet, you want to bet a dime, no problem. They'll take your action every time.
All righty, good stuff. All right, Matthew asks, what's the best advice for someone starting to track sports on Excel?
Track sports.
Track winnings, losses, records on Excel.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I talked about last week about software, and I didn't recommend any software. I just put it on an Excel spreadsheet. So when I'm tracking, okay, I'm going to track 2 ways. I'm going to track a bunch of ways, but I should say that. First of all, you're going to see how you're doing with any particular team. Halfway through the season, a month into the season, hey, wow, I'm 4-0 betting this team. I got a good read on them. Wow, I didn't realize I've lost every bet that I've made with the Falcons so far this year. I'm not going to bet the Falcons for a couple of weeks until I know that I have a better read on this squad. So you're tracking by team. You're tracking by range. Wow, dude, I'm not winning my pick'em bets. I'm not seeing the pick'em games. But every time I'm laying a touchdown or more, I'm hitting 80% of those. Let's look. It's not going to get you on or off a game in particular. It's a lot like Ralph Michaels' trends. They don't put you on or off a game, but as you're making a case, you're like, wow, look at this trend. Here's another one. It helps you make a case. It's the same story here when I'm talking about, I'm going to look and see how I'm doing on these types of bets. My big dogs aren't cashing. How do I adjust? Well, it doesn't say I'm never going to bet a big dog again the rest of the year. It means if I'm betting a big dog, I want to double check it, triple check it in a way that I might not have done had I been doing better with those type of bets. Or if I'm killing it with the short favorites, hey, this is a game that might have been a lean, but I've been reading these right all year, and I'm going to lay -2 here. It can take a lean and help you make it into a bet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Faith First asks, what is the best strategy to place my bet as soon as the sports books release their odds? There we go. Is that the best strategy they're asking?
Not necessarily, no. Again, game is different. If you have to be, if you're talking about betting on a serious level, you have to be paying attention to the marketplace as a whole. You can do that for free. At Sports Memo, at WagerTalk, we have a live odds tracker, and it doesn't cost you a dime. You can just click on it. And you say, wow, this book has a 7, but most of the market is sitting at 6.5. I don't think that 7's going to hold. They open 7, everyone else opens 6.5. Boom. You absolutely take the +7 there because then the number's not going to be there. But when you're on another game, if you like the team that's, if you like the team with the action is not coming in on, you wait. All right, they were. I wanted to lay. They opened -6.5, and now it's -4. I'm going to lay with them. Well, you don't want to do that at the opener. You want to. There are games that you bet before kickoff. There are games that you bet right when they open. There are games that you bet throughout the course of the week. And the only way to make those decisions is to track the numbers. The way you track the numbers is write them down, or you get them in your spreadsheet or whatever, and then you look at your live odds screen at Sports Memo or at WagerTalk or at Gold Sheet or whatever, and then you say, wow, this is what the market's doing. I better make this bet now. This is what the market's doing. I better hold off right now. If you're making bets without understanding what the markets are doing, you're betting blindfold. You really are. In terms of, do I bet early? Do I bet late? Do I bet in the middle? You can't have that info unless you're paying attention. I also encourage you every week during football, every week year round now, but every week during football season, Drew Martin and I do an opening line report for the NFL. I'm pretty good at bet this now, hold off till later if you like this side. Not perfect, but I've been doing it for a while. So that's a podcast I would encourage you to put on your radar if it's not on there already. Again, that's Monday morning. If you do at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time, the opening line report. That's a show that I do with Drew Martin right here on the Sports Memo and WagerTalk YouTube channel.
That is right. Okay, maybe like 3 more questions, Teddy. Ryan asks, and I don't actually know if you've kept up with this because it's so specific. Teddy, do teams like Washington State concern you? New coach, new quarterback, and new coach. You said that twice, Ryan. Lack of practice time. So does a team like Washington State concern you in football? Have you been keeping up with them at all lately?
Enormously. Okay. The teams with new coach, new coordinator, when you have a change in system, a change in strategy, a change in philosophy, a normal offseason is difficult. This offseason is impossible. Okay, it is absolutely impossible. So the only thing I'm doing with teams like Washington State, where it's new, is how do you fade them? But I'm not optimistic about college football. We're going to see we're going to see MLB in 2 weeks, or 10 days. We're going to see NBA. We're going to see NFL, I think. College, I continue to be, I've done my groundwork in college. I'm ready if it goes. But a lot of times this time of year, especially late July, early August, I'm digging everything I can find. And I'm putting my attention into baseball and basketball that way right now. I'm not putting attention to college football because I'm not convinced we're going to have a season. I'm really not. And especially not week 1. With all, non-conference games. I'm not, I'm much more confident in the professional sports than the collegiate sports. The kids aren't getting paid. The campuses aren't going to be open. It doesn't seem very realistic to me.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Question from Jordan. Has Teddy ever placed bets on the Olympics?
So, Alf, I had a guy. At one point, Alf sold for Sports Memo. He had a terrible. I love the guy. It wasn't one of his best years. I had a guy that used to put ridiculous. I have a friend who used to put a ridiculous amount of effort into literally the Olympic openers. Okay. He'd be betting a guy at minus 200 chalk who would close at minus 1,000. He did very, very well, and I tailed him on a couple of occasions. In terms of my own handicap for the Olympics, gosh, I can't think of an Olympic bet I made. I'm sure there must have been something sometime, but nothing. I mean, honestly, nothing comes to mind. I think I faded one of the basketball team a couple times, and they were laying 50 points in some stupid game. I bet against them, and did okay. But I don't do a lot with the Olympics. No, I had a guy, and again, my friend who did. I mean, he would do a ridiculous amount of research, and have his openers ready for when Penny. I guess Penny was the first one to put up openers for Olympics, and I mean, this guy killed it, but that's doing a significant amount of work years before the event. Just be aware. It's beatable. Okay. But you're going to do it without, I mean, he would put in, I would say, hundreds and hundreds of hours. Not 100, hundreds. And he'd make a fortune off the Olympics. Wow. I never got his numbers as good as his, but he got, it's doable. I have seen it work. I have not done it myself.
Okay, everyone, if you want to type in your favorite Olympic sport, it can be winter or summer, type it in now. My favorite's curling. All right, David from Israel. David from Israel is asking, and I know this is kind of vague, y'all talk about strategies, but how many bets do you place every week or in a month counting? I think that's kind of really hard to keep track of because it depends on the games you like. I mean, it just varies too, season-wise. So, Teddy, do you have an answer for that?
In any given week in football season, it's reasonable. So for the clients, I'll probably put out 8, 10, 12 plays. Lines that I got that I'm confident they're going to be able to get. For my own portfolio, it's usually in the range of double to triple that. I'm betting openers they're not going to get. I'm betting totals that they don't have. I'm betting stuff. But in a that's NFL and college combined. We're talking about the football weekend. I'll make 20 bets, 30 bets. It does vary. And then of course that's not talking about in game. That's that's the positions I'm taking before kickoff. I would say in the range of 20 to 30 a week. And it's not that dissimilar for like NBA or something like that. where again the ratio is about the same. My bets, what I'm putting out at the time I'm putting it out versus what I'm able to give to my clients, because they, I don't like putting out bullshit lines and all right, hey, I got this number at this book, but it's not widely available. I don't put those out to the clients. It's not fair. It's not the way I've chosen to do business. To put out numbers that people can't get. So it's important for me that when I'm putting out a number, the clients are able to get that number. So I'll put out anywhere between a third and a half, and it varies, of the bets that I'm making myself on an average week. And that's just a guesstimate.
Okay. Very last question from Mike. Do you try to middle games before kickoff or at halftime? How big of a point differential is required to make it a good bet?
Excellent question. And it's something that people ask about a lot. And let me start with this. My number one strategy when it comes to middling is I don't want to turn a winner into a push. You understand? I laid -3 with my team. They're up 28-0 at the half. Okay. I'm not automatically betting the other side. I have a winner. It's locked in a winner. Okay, yes, it's 28-3. The Patriots came back. Blah blah blah. I understand, but that's literally, that's the exception rather than the rule. So if I have a winner, I'm not effing with that winner. That said, there are lots of games that I'm live betting I don't have any opinion on, and all I want is I want this team at a plus price and I want that team at a plus price, and I'm just playing for the middle. Certainly, when we talk about NBA live betting, that's a huge part of my strategy. That is my strategy. Is the other team just went on a 12-0 run, the coach calls timeout, boom, that's the team I'm betting at a plus price, and then you do it back again there when they go on their run and the other coach calls timeout, and boom, now I've got both teams to win at a plus price, or I got I'm laying 3 with somebody and catching 8 with another team. Those are in the NBA something that I absolutely look to do. But the broader question is I never want to turn a winner into a push.
Good point.
When I've got something right, those aren't necessarily the games that I'm looking to get involved with an in-game wager.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, guys. That was the end of it. We are out of time. Teddy.
I just had one. Did we answer the Faith first in a question? How can you constantly make high-dollar wagers without getting limited? Did we answer that?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was along with the Del Toledo's question, but you can answer that. I figured it was just like all in one. Okay, Faith first.
Yeah. Just real quick. I bet people that take the time to send the question, I want to answer as best I can. And I thank you for sending in questions. Hopefully you put together a good show with it. But when it comes to making high-dollar wagers with getting limited, again, it all depends on the book. Some books are comfortable taking high-dollar wagers. Other books aren't. And if you're making the big bets and making them at, this is the only number, or you're betting injury info that's not out there in the markets or whatever yet, many lesser books will limit you. I'm looking specifically for books that will welcome my action. And there's, as long as I've been in Vegas, there've been at least a handful of those, and that really hasn't changed even in the current environment. Certainly offshore, there are plenty of books that cater. And as we're seeing around the country, we're not necessarily seeing that same philosophy or strategy play out, but it may. We're still very early in the process of what sportsbook is going to look like and what legal sports bet is going to look like in this country 5 and 10 years from now. Good question. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. We shall see what we'll do for next week's show. Thanks so much, Teddy. I feel like this chat is like a little family that we have every Thursday now. It's like the same people and then more newcomers, but everyone's comfortable with everyone. So thanks, guys. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, Teddy.
Cheers. Have a great week. We'll talk again next Thursday. Same bet.